Ben's new seat. Ben, a grizzly bear, had no friends and felt lonely in the forest. He decided to make a seat under a tree and watch everyone pass by. In this way, he would be able to make many friends. Next day, Ben sat on his new seat. Soon, a grey rabbit came by. He was very curious to see the seat and hopped onto it merrily. Then a squirrel jumped down from a branch above and sat next to the rabbit. Soon, 2 raccoons came scampering by and jumped on the seat too. Then a red fox and a stoat came running along and joined them. Now the seat was very crowded. Hearing their noise and laughter, a tiny bluebird also joined them. But the seat could not take so much weight. It creaked and slowly all the legs broke and everyone fell down laughing. Ben had made so many friends and was very happy. He decided to make a bigger seat which would be big enough for all his friends. Goldilocks. Goldilocks was a playful little girl who had lovely golden hair, and that is why she was called Goldilocks. One day, while roaming in the woods, she saw a pretty cottage. She went inside and saw 3 bowls of porridge on the table. Tasting the porridge in the biggest bowl, she said, "This porridge is too hot." She tasted some porridge from the second bowl and said, "This porridge is too cold." Then tasting some porridge from the third bowl, she said, "This porridge is just right," and she ate all of it. After that, Goldilocks felt sleepy, so she went upstairs where she saw 3 beds. She lay on the first bed and said, "This bed is too hard." She lay on the second bed and said, "This bed is too soft." Finally, she lay on the third bed and said, "This bed is just right." And so, Goldilocks curled up and went to sleep. The cottage actually belonged to 3 bears. When they came home in the evening, the 3 bears saw that someone had been there. Mama and Papa Bear ate their porridge, but the little bear wailed, "There is nothing left in my bowl." When they went upstairs to sleep, Papa Bear and Mama Bear found their beds had been used. Papa Bear shouted, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." Then Mama Bear cried, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." The little bear saw Goldilocks sleeping in his bed and squealed, "Someone is still sleeping in my bed." Goldilocks awoke, and seeing the 3 bears, she jumped up in fright and ran out of the door, never to be seen in the woods ever again. The Ant and the Grasshopper. In a garden, there lived an ant and a grasshopper who were very good friends. It was springtime, and the grasshopper was having a lot of fun, playing, singing, and dancing in the sun. But the ant was hard working. It was collecting food grains and storing them in its house. The grasshopper did not understand why the ant was doing so and said, "Hey ant, Why don't you come outside and play with me?" The ant replied, "I cannot. I am storing food for the winter when there won't be anything to eat." The grasshopper only laughed at the ant and said, "Why are you worrying now? There is plenty of food," and continued to play while the ant worked hard. When winter came, the grasshopper did not find a single grain of food to eat. It began to starve and feel very weak. The grasshopper saw how the hard-working ant had plenty of food to eat and realized its foolishness. The basket of mangoes. Tina was a very untidy girl. "Tina, you must keep your room tidy," her mother told her several times. One day, Tina's friend brought a basket of mangoes for her as she loved mangoes. Since her room was in a mess as usual, Tina kept the mangoes on a chair. She returned tired to her room after her evening play. Not finding any empty place to sit, she sat down on the nearest chair. Squash! The mangoes were squashed. Tina jumped up and gave a cry of shock. She realized that she had sat on the mangoes. Her mother came running to her room on hearing her shout. To her dismay, she saw that all the mangoes were crushed. "Oh, my favorite dress is spoilt! Mummy, what shall I do?" "That is why I always tell you to keep your room clean and tidy," said Mummy. From that day, Tina learned to keep all her things in order. The boy who cried wolf. Once there was a shepherd boy who tended his sheep at the foot of a mountain. He used to feel lonely during the day. So he thought of an idea whereby he could get some company and excitement. He went down to the village and shouted, "Wolf! Wolf!" On hearing his shouts, the villagers came to save him. But no wolf was seen. The angry villagers went back. The boy enjoyed this trick and after a few days repeated the same act. Once again the villagers came to help him. They realized that they had been fooled once more by the naughty boy. One day, a wolf really came to attack the boy, and this time the boy shouted even louder than before. But the villagers thought that the boy was trying to fool them once again. So no one came out to help him and the wolf took the boy away. As the wise saying goes, no one can know when a liar speaks the truth. The Fox and the Crow. One day, a fox saw a crow with a piece of cheese in his beak. The fox was very hungry and thought, "How can I get the piece of cheese?" He thought for a while. Soon an idea struck him. He decided to flatter the crow and thus began praising him. He said to the crow, "You are such a pretty and clever bird. If only you could sing as beautifully." Now the crow was flattered and felt very proud. He wanted to show the fox that he could sing very well. As soon as he opened his mouth to sing, the piece of cheese he was eating fell to the ground. The fox laughed at the crow and picked up the cheese and ate it hungrily. Too late, the crow realized that he had been fooled by the cunning fox. The Fox and the Grapes. Once upon a time, a hungry fox passed by a vineyard that was full of sweet grapes. When the fox saw the grapes, his mouth began to water. The fox tried to eat the grapes by jumping higher and higher, but the grapes still could not be reached. He finally gave up and walked away from the vineyard, feeling very sad. Some birds perched on a nearby tree asked, "How are the grapes?" The fox complained, "Oh, the grapes are sour." The Greedy Dog. Once upon a time, there lived a greedy dog. One day, he was very hungry and went in search of food. To his delight, the dog found a juicy bone. The dog happily carried the bone back home. He held the bone tightly in his mouth and scowled at anyone who tried to take it away. On his way home, he had to cross a bridge. While crossing the bridge, the dog saw his reflection in the water below. The foolish dog thought there was another dog in the water holding another juicy bone. The greedy dog wanted to have that bone too. He growled and barked at his own reflection in the water. "I'll get that bone too," thought the greedy dog, and he snapped his sharp teeth and barked at his reflection in the water. But alas, the moment the foolish dog opened his mouth to snap his teeth, the piece of bone fell into the stream. The dog lost his bone and had to go home hungry. The Hare and the Tortoise. A hare met a tortoise walking very slowly towards the market. The proud hare made fun of the slow tortoise, but the tortoise was good-natured and replied, "I may have small feet, but I can beat you in a race." The proud hare laughed and thought, "I can beat him within a second." So he readily agreed to the race. The next day, Uncle Elephant, who was the judge of the jungle, began the race by shouting, "Get, set, go!" When the hare had covered half of the distance, he looked back and saw the tortoise far, far behind. The hare thought, "Let me take a nap. I can run fast and easily win this race." He sat under a tree and dozed off. When the tortoise passed, he found the hare sleeping. When the hare woke up, he realized that the race was already over. The tortoise had reached the end and won the race. The hare was defeated by the tortoise's determination and hard work. The Honest Woodcutter. John was a poor woodcutter. His axe was most precious to him. One day, he went to the forest to chop some wood. He was sitting on a high branch on the riverside when suddenly there was a strong wind and his axe slipped and fell into the river. The poor woodcutter did not know what to do. He sat by the riverside and started crying. Just then, a river fairy appeared before him. She asked him, "Why are you so sad?" John told her that he had lost his only axe. The fairy dived into the river and brought out a silver axe. She said, "Here is your axe." But John said, "It's not mine. I can't take it." The fairy dived again and brought a golden axe. Again John said, "It's not mine. I can't take it." The fairy now dived and brought the old iron axe. When John saw it, he said excitedly, "Yes, this is my axe." The fairy was touched by John's honesty and gave him all the 3 axes. Now John was rich and lived happily ever after. The Lion and the Mouse. A little mouse was passing through a lion's den. The lion caught him and was about to smash him when the little mouse spoke. "Sir, please let me go, and I will do you a good turn one day for sparing my life." The lion was rather amused to hear this, thinking, "What good can he do me?" But he let him go. 2 weeks later, some huntsmen came to the same forest and spread a net around the lion's den. The lion was captured. He struggled hard to set himself free, but he soon realized he was trapped. He roared with anger. The little mouse was looking for food when he heard the lion's roar. He ran to him. Seeing the lion caught in the net, he started gnawing at it at once. The mouse had sharp teeth and he soon freed the lion. The lion was very grateful to the little mouse. From that day, the lion and the mouse became the best of friends. The Little Pine Tree. In a forest grew a little pine tree. It felt quite lonely as there were no other pine trees around and it had no friends. It also felt sad because it had long needles instead of leaves. One night it wished that it had leaves of gold. When it woke up in the morning, it found that the wish had come true and it had golden leaves now. The pine tree was very happy to see its gold leaves sparkling in the sunlight. Soon a woodcutter came to the forest. He plucked all the gold leaves and took them away. The pine tree was sad and wished it had leaves of glass so that no one would take them. Next morning, its wish had been fulfilled and it had leaves of glass. The pine tree was happy again and was delighted to hear its glass leaves tinkling when the wind blew. But there was a big storm in the afternoon and all the glass leaves shattered and fell on the ground. The pine tree was sad again and wished it had big green leaves. The pine tree was very happy the next morning as its wish had come true for the 3rd time. But soon a goat came and ate each one of the leaves. The pine tree now wished He could get his long needles back and was very happy the next morning when it got its needles back. He thought to himself, gold leaves, glass leaves and green leaves are all fine, but only long needles are good for a little pine tree like me. The milkmaid. A young milkmaid would take a pot of milk and sell it in the market nearby and earn money. One day, on her way to the market, while she was carrying a pot full of milk on her head, she began to daydream. She thought, "Today I will sell this pot of milk, and with the money I will buy some eggs. Soon the eggs will hatch and the chickens will grow into lovely fat hens. These hens will lay more eggs and I will sell all the eggs and get more money. I will then buy a cow with that money. That cow will give me buckets and buckets of milk and I will become very rich when I sell the milk. Then I will buy more cows and become richer and richer and richer every day." But alas, while the milkmaid was lost in thought, she did not look where she was walking. She tripped on a stone and fell down. The pot broke, and sadly she watched all her dreams flow away with the milk. The monkey. A thorn was once stuck to the tail of a mischievous monkey. So it went to a barber and asked him to remove the thorn. While removing the thorn with his razor, the barber cut the monkey's tail. The monkey was very angry and said, "Either put back my tail or give me your razor." The poor barber gave the monkey his razor. On its way back, the monkey met a woman cutting wood and said, "Use my razor. You will be able to cut the wood easily." The woman did, but broke the razor. The monkey said, "Either return my razor or give me your wood." The old woman gave away all the wood. At some distance, the monkey met another woman baking cakes. The monkey said to her, "Use my wood to bake more cakes." The woman was very happy, but then the monkey said, "Either return my wood or give me the cakes." The woman had to give up all the cakes. But alas, before the monkey could eat the cakes, a dog came running and snatched all the cakes away. The proud frog. A large frog who was very proud believed that he was the most handsome frog and he wanted to grow even bigger. He often admired his reflection in the pond and, swelling with pride, would boast to his friends, "Look how big I am." One day, an ox was passing by the pond. The proud frog looked at the ox and asked his friends, "Am I as big as the ox?" His friends, who were tired of hearing the proud frog boast about himself every day, said that he wasn't as big as the ox. The proud frog was furious and wanted to prove his friends wrong. He puffed himself up to become bigger and bigger to show his friends that he could be as big as the ox. He huffed and he puffed and he huffed and he puffed, and all of a sudden he burst. And that was the end of the proud frog. The thirsty crow. One day, a crow was feeling very thirsty. On a hot summer day, she flew here and there in search of water, but in vain. She continued to search hard, but couldn't find any water to quench her thirst. Then, after a long time, she found a pitcher with a little water in it. The neck of the pitcher was too long and the water level too low. The crow could not reach the water with her beak. She saw many pebbles around. Suddenly, the crow had an idea. She picked the pebbles one by one and dropped them in the pitcher. The level of the water slowly rose to the top. The crow drank the water thirstily. She was very happy. This story proves that if you try hard enough, you can overcome any problem. The Three Billy Goats Gruff. Once upon a time, there lived three billy goats named Gruff. They decided to climb a mountain to chew grass. But a wooden bridge had to be crossed to reach the mountain. Underneath the bridge lived an ugly giant who ate up all those who tried to cross the bridge. The smallest billy goat went first. As he stepped on the bridge, the giant shouted, "Who goes there across my bridge?" "I am the smallest billy goat, Gruff," came the reply. "I shall eat you up," roared the giant. "Please wait, for a bigger goat is on its way," said the smallest billy goat, Gruff. The greedy giant decided to let him go. The second billy goat also told the giant the same thing and crossed the bridge. On seeing the third billy goat, the giant pounced on him. But the goat was big and he knocked the giant down with his huge horns and killed him. The Ugly Duckling. A little duckling was very sad because he thought he was the ugliest amongst all his brothers and sisters. They would not play with him and teased the poor ugly duckling. One day he saw his reflection in the water and cried, "Nobody likes me. I'm so ugly." He decided to leave home and went far away into the woods. Deep in the forest, he saw a cottage in which there lived an old woman, her hen, and her cat. The duckling stayed with them for some time, but he was unhappy there and soon left. When winter set in, the poor duckling almost froze to death. A peasant took him home to his wife and children. The poor duckling was terrified of the children and escaped. The ugly duckling spent the winter in a marshy pond. Finally, spring arrived. One day, the duckling saw a beautiful swan swimming in the pond and fell in love with her. But then he remembered how everyone made fun of him, and he bent his head down in shame. When he saw his own reflection in the water, he was astonished. He was not an ugly duckling anymore, but a handsome young swan. Now he knew why he had looked so different from his brothers and sisters. They were ducklings, but I was a baby swan, he said to himself. He married the beautiful swan and lived happily ever after. The Wolf and the 7 Kids. Once there lived a goat with her 7 kids. A big bad wolf lived near their house and always tried to catch the little kids. One day, the goat had to go out. She said to the kids, "Do not let anyone in, especially the wolf." After she left, the wolf came and knocked on the door and said, "Let me in." But the kids recognized his rough voice and refused to open the door. After a while, the wolf came again and knocked on the door. This time he spoke softly, but the kids asked him to show his paws. When they saw his black paws on the window sill, they knew it was the wolf and did not let him in. So the wolf went to the baker and put some white flour on his paws. When he knocked on the door the 3rd time, the kids saw the white paws and thought it was their mother. As soon as they opened the door, the wolf gobbled up all the kids, except for the youngest kid. "Mummy, the wicked wolf has gobbled all my brothers," sobbed the youngest kid when the goat came home. "I will teach that wolf a lesson," said the angry goat. She went to the sleeping wolf and cut his stomach. Out sprang all the 6 kids. They filled the wolf's stomach with stones and sewed him up. When the wolf woke up and went to the well to drink water, the weight of the stones pulled him into the well and he drowned. Thumbelina. A kind woman who had no children longed for a baby and would often say, "How I would love to have a baby girl, even a tiny little one." A beautiful fairy heard her wish one day and gave her a little seed to plant in a flower pot. When the seed bloomed into a tulip, the woman saw a tiny, beautiful girl inside, no bigger than her thumb. She decided to call her Thumbelina. She was so small that she had a walnut shell for a bed and used petals as a blanket. Then an ugly toad fell in love with Thumbelina. One night when she was sleeping, he carried her off to his lily pad in a pond. Thumbelina was very unhappy. A swallow was passing by and saw how sad she looked and said, "Come south with me to warmer lands." Young Thumbelina flew away on the swallow's back. They flew across the seas and came to a land of sunshine. The swallow said, "This is my home. You can live in one of the loveliest and biggest flowers." When Thumbelina stepped inside, she found a handsome fairy, as tiny as her in its heart. He was the son of the King of Flowers, and he fell in love with Thumbelina. He asked her to marry him. So Thumbelina became Queen of the Flowers, and the two lived happily ever after. Who will bell the cat? There was a cat that was troubling the mice and had killed many of them. All the mice held a meeting to talk about this big problem. The mice wanted to get rid of the cat and decided to make a plan. The mice sat and talked for a very long time, but could not come to any conclusion. An old mouse stood up and said, "I know what we should do. We should tie a bell around the cat's neck. When the bell tinkles, we will know where the cat is." All the mice liked the idea, but one young mouse stood up and asked, "That is a good idea, but may I ask, who will bell the cat?" None of the mice wanted to do that. The young mouse then said, "It is easy to sit and have big ideas, but it is never easy to carry them out.